Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Today, Rebirth, Part 1, from Sri Aurobindo. The soul takes birth each time, and each time a mind, life, and body are formed out of the materials of universal nature, according to the soul's past evolution and its need for the future. When the body is dissolved, the vital goes into the vital plane and remains there for a time. But after a time, the vital sheath disappears. The last to dissolve is the mental sheath. Finally, the soul or psychic being retires into the psychic world to rest there till a new birth is close. This is the general course for ordinarily developed human beings. There are variations according to the nature of the individual and his development. For example, if the mental is strongly developed, then the mental being can remain. So also can the vital, provided they are organized by and centered around the true psychic being. They share the immortality of the psychic. The soul gathers the essential elements of its experiences in life and makes that its basis of growth in the evolution. When it returns to birth, it takes up with its mental, vital, physical sheaths so much of its karma as is useful to it in the new life for further experience. It is really for the vital part of the being that Shraddha and rites are done, to help the being get rid of the vital vibrations which still attach it to the earth or to the vital worlds, so that it may pass quickly to its rest in the psychic peace. Recollections last only for a time, not till rebirth. Otherwise, the stamp would be so strong that remembrance of past births, even after taking a new body, would be the rule rather than the exception. You say relationships of one birth persist in successive births, the chances depending on the strength of the attachment. This is possible, but not a law. As a rule, the same relationship would not be constantly repeated. The same people often meet again and again on earth in different lives, but the relations are different. The purpose of rebirth would not be served if the same personality with the same relations and experiences are incessantly repeated. There is no rule of complete forgetfulness in the return of the soul to rebirth. There are, especially in childhood, many impressions of the past life which can be strong and vivid enough, but the materializing education and influence of the environments prevent their true nature from being recognized. There are even a great number of people who have definite recollections of a past life. But these things are discouraged by education and the atmosphere cannot remain or develop. In most cases, they are stifled out of existence. At the same time, it must be noted that what the psychic being carries away with it and brings back is ordinarily the essence of the experiences it had in former lives, and not the details, so that you cannot expect the same memory as one has of the present existence. I know nothing about any terrible suffering endured by the soul in the process of rebirth. Popular beliefs, even when they have some foundation, are seldom enlightened and accurate. Note that the idea of rebirth and the circumstances of the new life as a reward or punishment for punya or papa is a crude human idea of justice, which is quite unphilosophical and unspiritual, and distorts the true intention of life. Life here is an evolution, and the soul grows by experience, working out by it this or that in the nature. And if there is suffering, it is for the purpose of that working out, not as a judgment inflicted by God or cosmic law on the errors or stumblings which are inevitable in the ignorance. Also, when it comes to birth, it is not sure that the forces of the physical world will not come across the working out of what it wanted. Its own new instrumentation may not be strong enough for that purpose, for there is the interaction of its own energies and the cosmic forces here. There may be frustration, diversion, a partial working out. Many things may happen. All that is not a rigid machinery. It is a working out of complex forces. It may be added, however, that a developed psychic being is much more conscious in this transition and works out much of it itself. The time depends also on the development and on a certain rhythm of the being. For some, there is practically immediate rebirth. For others, it takes longer. For some, it may take centuries. But here again, once the psychic being is sufficiently developed, it is free to choose its own rhythm and its own intervals. Shakespeare is referring to Pythagoras' belief in transmigration when he speaks of the passage of somebody's grandmother into an animal. But the soul, the psychic being, once having reached the human consciousness, cannot go back to the inferior animal consciousness any more than it can go back into a tree or an ephemeral insect. What is true is that some part of the vital energy or the formed instrumental consciousness or nature can, and very frequently does so, if it is strongly attached to anything in the earth life. This may account for some cases of immediate rebirth with full memory in human forms also. Ordinarily, it is only by yogic development or by clairvoyance that the exact memory of past lives can be brought back. All human incarnations or births have naturally a psychic being. It is only other types, like the vital beings, that have not. And that is precisely the reason why they want to possess men and enjoy physical life without being themselves born here. For so they escape the psychic law of evolution and spiritual progress and change. But these formations, vital fragments of a dead person, are different. They are things that do not leave the earth and do not possess, but simply attach themselves to some human rebirth, of course, with a psychic in it, which has some affinity and therefore does not object to or resist their inclusion. The one question which, through all its complexities, is the sum of philosophy, and to which all human enquiry comes round in the end, is the problem of ourselves, why we are here, and what we are, and what is behind and before and around us, and what we ought to do with ourselves, our inner significances, and our outer environment. In the idea of evolutionary rebirth, if we can once find it to be a truth and recognize its antecedents and consequences, we have a very different clue for an answer to all these connected sides of the one perpetual question. A spiritual evolution of which our universe is the scene, and Earth its ground and stage, though its plan is still kept back above from our yet limited knowledge. This way of seeing existence is a luminous key which we can fit into many doors of obscurity. But we have to look at it in the right focus to get its true proportions, and especially to see it in its spiritual significance more than in its mechanical process. The failure to do this rightly will involve us in much philosophical finessing, drive on this side or the other to exaggerated negations, and leave our statement of it, however perfect may be its logic, yet unsatisfying and unconvincing to the total intelligence and the complex soul of humanity. The bare idea of repeated births as the process of our soul existence does not carry us much farther than the simple material reality of this single life in the body. That first fact of our conscious sensation and memory, which is the occasion of all our speculations. Behind our present starting point, and preceding this one lapid of our race, in the fields of being rebirth, reminds us indeed of a past, of pregnant anterior courses, a soul existence in many previous bodies, which have immediately created what we now are. But to what use or advantage if there is no progressive significance in our pre-existence? and our persevering continuity.